Hey, IT Nation, Sean Loto here with another episode installment. I'm not sure what else to use for our Wise Up podcast. I'm with my co-host, good friend, Matthew Topper. Matt, how are you today?
Wow.
I know you love Matthew. I know that's why I say it.
Ooh.
How you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing awesome. How about you?
Fantastic. So, you know, I always love to level set this Wise Up podcast. What is the Wise Up podcast, Top?
So Wise Up Podcast, a couple things. One is just to get some exposure to people you wouldn't otherwise see, right? Most of us know people who are like super active on LinkedIn or talk at conferences and all that stuff. And we want to bring the people that we talk to that are not the top of the LinkedIn algorithm, but have really, really cool stuff and useful things to say that you can take back and work, apply to your business, apply to life, apply to anything really. And we just like talking to cool people on top of that.
Absolutely. I like that. We're not talking to the usual suspects, right?
Yes, exactly.
Which is nice, which gives us a different set of a different flavor in a lot of cases to some of the old topics we talked probably a million times over with the regular suspects.
Number of followers does not equate to most valuable thing to say.
That's fun. That's a really good one. It's like the quote Matt Topper at the end. I like that. So for today's episode, another one of our Pitch It contestants this year for 2025. And actually, he's actually, I never knew him until he was in Pitch It. And he's been pretty active on LinkedIn and stuff lately, which I totally appreciate, with some really good posts. We can get into that as well. But would you like to do the honor of making the introduction, since I'm going to hog up all the space probably?
Well, we're just going to bring up, add to the confusion of the podcast by bringing up another Matt into the recording. So let's just bring him right up and we'll go right to it.
Good call.
Hello.
Hey, I mean, that's kind of, maybe I'll stick with the Matthew Matt thing, so that way we know who I'm talking to. You're Matthew then. All right, Matt. Hey, MSPX and all that. Before we got on there, I told you how I love the MSPX logo in the background, and I immediately thought about you peacocking, right? Which is great. I have no problem with that. So if you don't mind, give us a little background for those that don't know you, who you are, what you do, where are you?
Yeah, so my name is Matt Yesbeck, Matthew to my mother and wife. I'm out in Virginia. I've been in the IT industry for about 30 years, working in corporate America, within and around Richmond, small MSPs, enterprise MSPs, 3 years with the DoD, working at different military bases. So doing all the technical stuff. And also recently own our own local MSP called Yesbeck IT Services, and also the co-founder of MSPX.
So you're running your own MSP also?
Yes.
How's that going for you?
Yeah, so it's funny how that all came about. So with MSPX, and my son comes out of college in 2017 and looking, how's he going to apply his business degree, right? And to my surprise, he decides to go into the IT business. So I get him in front of a local MSP that I had a relationship with. They interview him, he knocked it out of the park, and they hired him. And about four years later, he'd been promoted to MSP director. And one of his first projects was to look at the portfolio of customers that they currently had and try to identify those that needed to be pruned, right? So for whatever reason, low fit customer, moving away from the business model that the direction they're currently taking the company, overworked. But for whatever reason, he had identified, I believe it was like 5 or 6. And then he goes to the internet to try to find out where he could divest these contracts to not only monetize them, but to be able to transfer those customers to a vetted MSP without that customer feeling like they've just been left out in the lurch, right? So he's 10 pages deep into a search, Google search, and he's not finding anything. And then he calls me up and runs this whole thing by me. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe that we found this white space within the industry that just doesn't seem to exist. in a unified fashion, right? In fragmented fashion, it's all over the place and does happen in back channels. But long story short, so we come together in the summer of 23 to decide to build this platform for MSPX, right? We launch it in January of 24, so just a year and a half ago. And then in May of 24, we both, from our respective employers, get laid off, right? And so at that point, we're deciding, should we just jump back on the corporate merry-go-round, or should we go ahead and just go into business together? We had a good experience with MSPX. It was a work in progress. And we had talked about potentially just leaving corporate America, but lo and behold, it left us. So we decided to open our local MSP. We started that a year ago this month. And so when that happened, we had to put MSPX on the back burner to get Yesbeck up and running, get customers paying the bills, right? We had to get that stuff going for our own financial safety, right? And so then when all that the dust settled and we were good, we circled back around to MSPX in late December of this past year and really just started driving it hard. And so I guess where I'm going with that is MSPX started first, and then we started our own MSP out of necessity 6 months later. And so how is that going? Great. I mean, so far so good. And hey, MSPX is part of Pitch It. That's amazing, right? So things are great.
So taking the Pitch It angle for a second, this can be practiced. Take 30 seconds in case anyone doesn't know, what is MSPX?
Yeah, so MSPX is the internet's first unified marketplace for the buying and selling of managed services contracts. So designed for growth-minded MSPs, it enables structured, secure transactions, whether you're scaling up, pruning your portfolio, or planning a strategic exit. MSPX is where contracts become currency.
Very cool. By contracts, do you mean like your contract with the client? Like I have a dental client, I'm trying to exit that vertical, way to offload all my dental clients?
There you go. That's right. Yep. And we've talked to several M&A brokers that will be representing a seller. They find the buyer, but the buyer doesn't want those 20 VoIP contracts because they're just not in that vertical. And so what does the broker do? And so there's a lot of excitement around having this second avenue to be able to monetize and divest those contracts.
That's like your tagline is MSPX, where contracts become currency.
Yeah, that's a really good line.
It's on our business card.
I mean, seriously, so. Okay, so how much of the MSP, how much of your story you just told us about the MSP and put us on hold, how much of that correlates to the MSPX piece now? Like, because I imagine you're trying to grow your business, you're trying to find more. That's what this works with. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the version 2.0 is currently in the works. We kicked off web development with a well-known developer company within the MSP space about 3 weeks ago. So we're about 10 weeks away from version 2.0, which is going to include so many amazing things, stuff that we had learned from the MVP model that we built ourselves and put out. And really, at the end of the day, yes, when that goes live and we start to see the commerce and the buying and selling, we're going to definitely be eating our own cooking. As a local MSP, you can bet that we're going to be browsing the contract marketplace for potential opportunities, not only just here locally, but because we are in such a distributed workforce post-COVID, you don't necessarily your client doesn't have to be in your backyard. And so that's another benefit of having this worldwide marketplace is you can grab contracts from places you just normally wouldn't have even thought about, or you can even buy yourself into a particular geographic location that you're looking to move into. And instead of having to spend all of those marketing dollars and advertising into that space, you can maybe get some traction initially with a contract or two. Yeah.
Did this in practice end up getting used for like that client, right? The one the phone rings and like the sense of dread comes over as a way to offload that stuff? And is there like I'm almost envisioning like you know, in eBay for MSP contracts where this keeps going down to someone who's willing to take on this client.
Yeah, and so I mean, we don't want obviously the perception that this is a dumping ground for bad clients, right? You know, when you think about what is a bad client, I mean, that could be anything from just a not a good cultural fit to the wrong vertical to, I mean, there could be a number of reasons. But I mean, think about it like selling your car, right? You're not selling it because it's broken. You're selling it because it no longer fits your needs. And that can be the same thing with a customer. So yeah, I mean, there could always be that pain in the butt customer, but is it just because you're not gelling well or because they're truly trash? And that will bear itself out. I mean, when you go to the marketplace and you initiate a contract sale, there's a very comprehensive intake form. And we ask some very pointed questions that we're using our AI engine to drive a valuation as well as a risk score. So we can, within reason, identify a churn risk for either a single contract or a bundled book of business based on the information that's been provided. So we're trying to really put in some safeguards there. It is an escrow-backed transaction. So the minute a sale is initiated, the buyer's funds go into escrow and nothing is dispersed until that client is successfully transitioned to the buyer.
This is a really cool idea.
Right, so it is. So, well, and it kind of reminds me of part of the concept is what was called free markets, right? Back in the day.
Okay.
They did contract. What they did is they opened up contracts for bids for everything, right? This is before you ever had the ability to do it. This is when you had to go basically door to door. This is where like Aruba started and all those guys, right?
All right.
You know, because free markets was the first to do it.
Yeah.
And actually they started here. I live in Pittsburgh. They started here in Pittsburgh actually, and it turned into this global organization. So. And I think what the benefit of that was it became very competitive then. So people had to up their game in what they provided, service-wise and everything else. Do you see yours? And then we can take us to other industries they do it in. So how does an MSP or how does the vendor or MSP itself become? Are they scored? Or is there some sort of rating system?
Absolutely. Yeah. So initially when the marketplace is relaunched here at the end of August, beginning of September, we are not going to have any reputation score out of the gate, right? Because everyone's going to be new. So essentially everyone's at 0. But we have a onboarding process for MSPs that sign up that will help us vet who you are. So we'll have questions that we'll ask, certainly like what's your EIN if you're United States based, right? Google business page, Duns and Bradstreet. So when you are answering these questions, and some of them will be required, not just optional, but when you answer those optional questions like Duns and Bradstreet, business, right? When your profile is created, that is going to determine your initial reputation score, right? So, and then as you conduct business on the marketplace, when business is done, funds are released, and customers transitioned, email goes out to both buyer and seller. And there will be a rating system there that they will be able to give us feedback on that will then be ingested into the marketplace and assigned to both of their profiles and will update their reputation score. So not only are we going to vet the MSPs on the way in, but they're going to pretty much give themselves their own confidence rating based on how they conduct business.
That's awesome. So someone's like,
no.
How did these get priced? Is it some percentage or multiple of the annual or monthly? Is it some kind of flat fee per transaction? Like what's it look like?
Sure. Yeah. In terms of how we generate revenue on the marketplace it's twofold. So there's a low subscription cost and there are 2 tiers. There's a general access to the marketplace and that's $2.99 a year. And then there is a first look access to the marketplace, which is $5.99 a year. And to explain the first look, it's somewhat self-explanatory, but if a seller comes in and lists a contract, that contract is held for 36 hours and it is sent out by email to everyone that has signed up to the first look tier. They have 36 hours to hit the buy now link, which will then take you back to the marketplace and you can purchase that contract before it even hits general pop, right? If no one lights on that, then it gets released to the marketplace at large after 36 hours, and then the general subscription tier will be able to either buy now or bid on that contract. Then the second way that we generate revenue on the back end is we will take a 7% fee from the seller once the transaction is completed and escrow funds are released. So a small upfront subscription, and then a small percentage on the back end, and that keeps the lights on.
So you're essentially acting as a legitimate broker, but it's exclusivity with membership.
Yes,
I appreciate that. You're doubling, you're double dipping, and it's a smart way to do it though. But it's based off value add, so it's not like it's exactly what you get with mortgage brokers and the actual real estate sales rep, So you're combining both.
And now that you mentioned the M word, I mean, if you look at essentially like mortgage backed, we have all those the mortgage backed certificates that were bundled together and kind of sold that way, and with that you had reduced attrition, but the better mortgages help to offset the not so good, right? You had your primes and your C's and D's and all that stuff, right? So it's really the same with MSPX as well. So if you have a broker, for instance, or even a small MSP who is a lifestyle brand or a lifestyle business, I should say, and they're looking to exit, but they're just not attractive enough for a larger M&A purchase from another MSP, they end up just shutting their doors and having to walk away from their 20, 25 contracts they've had for 15, 20 years. With MSPX, they can list that entire book of business on the marketplace. Mm-hmm. And when you're doing that, one of our goals is to make the attrition rate as low as absolutely possible. And we're doing that through a buyer-seller dashboard that keeps everything in sync, that we've supplied messaging and the timing of that messaging, both on the buyer and seller side as they reach out to the customer in question. But we want to keep that attrition rate super low. And another way to do that clearly is when you're buying a book of business. So, if I'm listing 20 and I might lose 3 or 4, the others that I've purchased are going to far outweigh the loss there.
So ultimately, you can end up doing both here. You can be helping people sell their book of business or also be acquired.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So we're not an M&A. So when you say acquire, I just want to make sure we're clear that we're not talking about like physical assets. We're not talking about their office space or any of their inventory. I know at least.
No. I think it's the typical. No, I think we've already set the standard in the industry of what M&A looks like in this space now.
Yeah.
And with companies like Evergreen, New Charter, and all those guys, they've already said this is how it's going to operate, kind of. So, I think my whole question was more towards just the accessibility of people being able to find people, which is the hardest part.
Absolutely. That's right. We're unifying it. Yeah.
I like that.
That's it.
That's clutch. So, so when you come back going back to the rating piece, then obviously rating comes from the basic things like the Better Business Bureau, blah, 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 right? Is there any rating along the scale of how their contracts are performing? What's their EBITDA, stuff like that? Is that involved in this?
Yeah, there are. Again, yes, we have specific questions for the contract intake, which is going to allow us to present as accurate as possible risk score for each contract. Or if it's a bundle book, again, we're taking in all things into consideration to give it that single risk score for that entire book of business, right? And yes, so there are those factors that you mentioned. Some, if not all of those, are included in the questions that we're asking when you're listing a contract, because we really want the valuation to be spot on and we want the risk score to be spot on. And the beauty about it is if you join the marketplace and maybe you're not thinking about listing a contract right away, but you're curious because you do have a few customers that you could stand to let go and monetize that and maybe reinvest on the marketplace with a contract that's in a vertical you want to stack, right? But whatever the case may be, you will have the ability to go through this intake process. And then before you hit list, you can hit generate risk score and generate valuation to just get an idea of what that contract is worth and what the potential churn is going to be. And so you can do that without even having to list the contract. So that's a little bit of a value add there. So you can kind of see what something like that would go for on the marketplace before having to commit to doing it.
Nice.
Does the risk score take into account or try to take into account, for lack of a better term, the pain factor, right? They complain about every bill, like all that stuff. So, you're getting one of those.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. We ask questions in terms of ticket amount, communication, are they paying their bill? How many times have they been late? More than 30 days, something like that. So yeah, we're taking all that into account because, again, I mean, the beauty of it is we're also an MSP, and it's more real now to us than it's ever been. So one of the main a big advantage of rebuilding this website right now is it hits so close to home, and we're able to really put in questions that we know that we would want to know ourselves. So how would that not be the same information our peers would also want to know?
Right.
So there's going to be one main question that's going to come from the space. How do I know as an MSP that your MSP isn't just going to take the good clients? How are you protecting that? How do you maintain the integrity of knowing it's an actual free market? Because you have an MSP that you can take any clients you want to, right?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I guess you could say that there's going to obviously have to be a line of separation between MSPX as the marketplace and Yesbeck as the MSP for sure. And I know it means nothing at this point, but we'll certainly be building our own reputation score. But to me, Sean, it's just a matter of integrity. And so that is very important to us. And why would we want to bite the hand that feeds us? And that statement goes both ways, right? And so we need to be fair all the way around. So yeah, we're not going to be approaching this in any kind of insider trading because it just wouldn't be fair.
Sure. I mean, that is going to be the question, and they're going to want that in documentation as well, right? Because that's how vendors and MSPs work together. And I'll give you a simple example of this. I just had this conversation yesterday with a vendor, and we talked about the importance of having or not having your price point on your website.
Right.
And when you're a vendor, most vendors will not put price points on their website because they're not promoting to the general public. They're not trying to get the end users, right? And that's how they sort of secure that. That's one simple example. And MSPs expect that to never be up there because why is your price up there for everybody to find?
Yeah.
Right. You're going to mess up my margin, look you up, or whatever it may be, right? So, that, and then also in the contracts itself that you provide, if you're going to be a channel only vendor, right? That's what they look for. Like, okay, are you going after your own business? And that it's a challenge because a lot of vendors were founded from direct business.
Yes.
They were selling already 10 users. And you realize, do this for MSPs. And that's kind of, so I'm saying that because they're going to ask you, and you can say integrity, but they don't know you from anybody right now. They're going to want hard line information, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And certainly, no doubt with this marketplace, we've had to engage a legal team for several things. And one of certainly understanding the entirety of the MSA and how many MSA variations are represented out there in the wild, and what we need to take into consideration, such as proof of assignability and things like that, right? So we've certainly had those conversations, and we know we're going to have our terms and conditions and all of this stuff, and so absolutely needs to have something documented in terms of Yesbeck and not getting our hands in the cookie jar when no one's looking, right?
Yep.
So you kind of referenced the go ahead, Sean.
No, go. I'm done.
You mentioned the buy now button, kind of the eBay metaphor. Do you anticipate a future where this is a competitive bidding situation at some point where multiple MSPs want the same contract?
Man, do I hope so. That's why we have the buy now and the bid, because you can either just grab it if you want it, or you can actually start to bid and see where you end up. And just like eBay, and obviously we've certainly stolen from that model because it just works well for our application. If you get a valuation, you don't have to list it at that valuation. You can list it if you think you've got gold, then go for it. But it's really only what your peers are going to perceive the value to be based on the contract details, and they may come up with another number, and that number might not be where you're at, and so they can bid. And if no one at the end of that bid period, if the contract doesn't get sold, then that seller is able to, before they even list it, have that step down tier, so the price can go down. So yeah, we really do want that competitive bid to take place. We want everyone from the trunk slammer in his little white Sprinter van all the way up to a $20 million MSP with several departments and teams. We want everyone to be able to have a fair shot at not only divesting, because listen, the truth is this: if everyone's a buyer, we don't have any supply, right? We've got to have businesses that are willing to put into practice the pumpkin plan, right? You've got to be able to your book of business. You've got to be willing, if you're exiting the business, to look at MSPX as a place to divest your entire book, and just to be able to keep things moving. We need supply as much as we need demand, and so they have to go hand in hand.
I could go on about this all day, by the way.
Well, good.
It's a good conversation.
I think the thing that I like the most is this. One thing I always dislike from being in sales for as long as I always dislike when the person creating the service or offering they're trying to sell just tells you have to do better at trying to sell more.
Right.
If there's function within the business, right? And so with you scoring, rating, everything else, it forces the person and MSPs or vendors, it forces them to actually step up and make sure things are solidified as a business.
Correct.
And
yeah.
It forces, so with enough transparency, and that's what this ultimately becomes. This is why Yelp is so successful, right? Is because there's now, granted, there's some bogus reviews. People don't like certain restaurants or whatever it may be, but at large, Yelp serves its purpose. You can go on and you can see it, right? And then places like TripAdvisor bring information to that from there, right? I think that this is great for that, because if you can create that transparency, good competition is always a good thing, and it improves the service level. So, and let me
I was just saying, let me just touch on a few statements that you made. So number one, if you want your contract to be worth more on the marketplace, you're going to do yourself a favor by getting not only a signed contract, because a handshake is not a contract and you can't list that as such. You can list it on our marketplace as a referral, but it is going to sell at a much lower rate because there's no MSA in place. If you want that contract to be more valuable on the marketplace, then get that MSA signed for 2 or 3 or 4 years, right? The longer that contract is, then the more value that the contract inherently is going to have. And then lastly, it needs to be said that MSPX isn't a replacement for a great sales engine, right? That should always be in place at an MSP. MSPX is a second avenue for revenue.
I like that.
Yeah,
I do too. So Matt, we could talk about this all day, I think, but we're just about out of time. So I want to make sure we get time for one last question that we ask to everyone that comes on the show. Okay. And that is, if you can give a piece of advice to someone, an MSP, in the form of a habit, just to help them with their business, or in this case, about expanding or maybe divesting verticals or changing clients, what would it be? What's something they should start doing or stop doing?
So I'm a big fitness nut, and I work out daily in one way or the other, whether it's at the gym Monday, Wednesday, and Friday doing weight training, or I'm out in the neighborhood doing steady state cardio. I'm always moving, right? And one thing that I think has really helped me, especially with 2 businesses, is I'm already coming into this, I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. And I get that from my years of training, right? The only way you're going to make a muscle grow is that time under tension. And the only way to do that is to be uncomfortable. Same thing with steady state cardio, healthy lungs, healthy heart. You have to go out there and pound that pavement and do it for several miles. And you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think in a business sense, there are so many ways and so many interactions that we have or we avoid because they're uncomfortable. And the sooner you can get comfortable being uncomfortable, I think that is going to accelerate your business in many different ways. And it'll just give you the determination to be able to keep going because you are okay with that, with being uncomfortable as you are heading into the unknown, as you're learning things that you don't know and you're having to drink from a fire hose, whether you're getting pushback and you're having to push through. There's just so many benefits to it. So I would keep that in mind. Just be comfortable being uncomfortable.
I have just to throw down for that for 1 second. MSPs are hearing this, right? And historically speaking, MSPs are great at engineering and help desk support stuff, right? Yeah. They don't do well with growth, and you don't change the sales team. So can you correlate that into being uncomfortable and having growth
absolutely
as a business?
Sure, and I've experienced this myself in the last year, trying to generate traction and likability and trust with Yesbeck IT services here in our own backyard. And that has been where I've spent nearly 30 years on the technical side, working again for MSPs of varying sizes, never having to do the sales stuff. Always just fulfilling a contract that was already sold. So what was uncomfortable and unfamiliar for me and absolutely necessary to grow my business was to engage in all of these local business networking events that are happening all around the town, right? The only way that I'm going to get out and people are going to know anything about me locally is if I lean in. And I'm not an extroverted person, but I'm not extremely introverted, but I can turn it on and be upfront and lean into a situation for a time to help generate knowing me, liking me, trusting me, and eventually giving me your business. And so I would say that if you're an MSP and you want growth, you have to get out there and you have to network. You want to certainly keep your LinkedIn page going, but it's what's happening in your backyard is where you're going to find the most traction. So lean into that. And for most people, it's not comfortable. Most MSPs, they wake up one day, they're an engineer or a technician, and somehow now they're a business owner. Well, they didn't bring the skills of sales and people interaction and development and all the things that go into owning a business. And it's all very uncomfortable. But if you just lean in and you do it for a time, 6, 7, 8 months, you'll start to see the benefits of all that hard work.
I like that. I think that's important for people to see. And the fact that you actually gave a time limit is kind of important, like 6 months, 7 months, you got to work on it, right? So
just like fitness, right? It takes 6 weeks before you start seeing some results.
Yeah, and they say it takes 20 days to form any habit, right? So if you can just, bear it long enough. I mean, what's 3 weeks to form a habit that is ultimately going to reward you on the back end? It's worth it, right? Just lean into it and do it.
Agreed. Yeah. All right. So Matt, any last words here? We're going to wrap this up.
No. I think we're good. Matt, I'll say.
Okay, Matthew, any last words?
Good. I mean, the conversation's awesome. So so I'm good.
Matthew Topper, what about you?
I think it's good. I think you have a really fantastic idea here, Matt. And I was just thinking it's awesome to see some more people into fitness in the channel too. There's not a ton of us.
Right.
Yeah, Matt Topper loves to run. It's the weirdest thing. I'm like, no.
Run for fun? Yeah, no, it's crazy. And as y'all probably see, I mean, I'm standing. I try not to ever sit down. I hear that sitting is the new smoking, so I'm always standing, right? And staying on my feet.
I love that. All right. Hey, Matt, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Yeah. I like the idea because you're in Pitch It this year. A bunch of us liked it. Thought it was a great go to market.
Yeah.
thank you for the candid responses. Totally appreciate that too. So look forward to seeing you in the future here. Hopefully we're going to see you at IT Nation Connect this year. Because I think you got to get the word out more to all these MSPs. So they know what they're looking for, right?
Absolutely.
Other than that, that's all we have for today. Matt Topper, we'll see you on the next episode, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye for now.